Hello, audience. My name is Andrew Oro Alamar, and welcome to Rediscover Your Hidden Intuitive Gifts and Reconnect with Loved Ones Beyond the Veil. Today, we have an amazing guest. An amazing guest, would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jen Haddix, and I am a spiritual business coach, sound healer, and I like to call myself an authenticity activator.
I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you, what was the catalyst that kind of called you to all three of these? I mean, it almost seems like one of them was the catalyst to all of them. So I will kind of let you answer that. But yeah, what was the catalyst that kind of got you into not only spiritual business coaching, but the spirituality aspect as well?
I started with the spirituality aspect, but I've been in business for myself for a long time, and I started to see how the two really needed to come together to be successful in business. And so I really believe that there is a new paradigm that's coming in, and we are doing things a different way. We're doing things with like less hustle, more alignment, more energy. And so with all of my spiritual work and all the business work that I've done, I kind of saw the place where they could go together and coexist.
I love that. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
it I love how it kind of they coexist, and I love how you have the business coaching along with being a spiritual practitioner because again, I think it's really amazing how you kind of don't just talk, you walk the walk. So
Yes.
yeah, I hope it didn't
Yeah.
sound like too weird, but
No, it sounds perfect. You're not going to get too weird for me, I promise.
okay. So next, I want to ask you, how does your work as a spiritual business coach help individuals align their hidden intuitive gifts with their professional path and purpose?
Mm. So I was thinking about this because I read your questions beforehand and I was like, how do I want to answer that? So I really think that the authenticity part is a huge part of it. And we don't realize that authenticity is spiritual work because basically what I believe is that we live in sort of a matrix, right? There's a societal structure, there's a structure that tries to keep us in these little boxes so that it can understand who we are. And I actually believe that the work we need to be doing as spiritual business owners and as spiritual practitioners is to be going outside of that box and expanding and seeing what's outside of it and showing it to the rest of the world to be like, hey, there's a different way to do this. Like there is a different way to show up. And we've been doing it the same way for a really long time. And very clearly it's not working anymore. And so what usually happens is I do life coaching and business coaching all in one a lot of the time. Or if I do life coaching, those people usually end up wanting to open a business because they've done all of the spiritual work and they're like, oh my God, what am I even doing with my life? And they have all these passions that start to come out. And so just doing that internal work and letting it reflect into your external world, it just changes. It changes the way that you see things and the way that you approach everything.
I love that. I want to ask you this. The one thing I see is well, as you talked about multiple passions, is the one thing I see about people who are just starting out is
Mm-hmm.
they'll have a hard time like niching down, and not
Mm-hmm.
only that, they'll have a hard time like building their business around like I guess like the healing aspect when they do a lot of things. So I guess
Yes.
the question around that is like, how does someone who has a bunch of all these like modalities and teachings and all that stuff like niche down? If that makes
I've been thinking about that a lot actually because I don't think we need to niche down. We just need to restructure how we present it. And I work on that a lot with myself because I'm like, okay, I'm a spiritual business coach. I'm a sound healer. I do Reiki. I do yoga. I do blah, 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 blah. And unless I brand myself as one of those things, it gets very confusing. So rather than say that I am one of those things, I think I focus more on the umbrella of what my result is that I'm offering my clients. And then all of those things fall under the umbrella. So for me, mine is authenticity activation and waking up the heart of humanity to the new paradigm so that we can let go of old ways. And everything I do falls under that category. So if anyone's listening and they're like, wow, I do Reiki, I do yoga, I do this, and this, ask yourself, what is your result? A lot of people focus on maybe self love, maybe they focus on I don't know, body positivity, or there could be anything. Whatever their result is, put it under the umbrella of your result and then title yourself around that. And it helps a lot. And then you don't have to niche down at all.
I love that. And thank you for answering that
Mhm.
because I I can't say I was having a little bit of an issue with that, but a little bit I am because I'm a psychic healer.
Yep.
And I'm always kind of worried, along with my other clients, of like, should I brand myself as just a psychic healer and do both? Um,
Mm.
And I've kind of already determined that yeah, I'm going to do both because I'm very very good at both. I started out as a healer and I'm a psychic now. But yeah, I think it was a very valuable question to ask just because a lot of the people that I work with, the people that I mentor, have that same
Mm-hmm.
question. Like they'll
Mm-hmm.
come to me and they'll learn channeling or they'll learn healing or they'll learn animal communication, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have all these things, and then then they'll ask me when we're done, okay, now how do I niche down? Like, what do I do?
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
you don't have to niche down,
You
just
don't have to.
who you are, you know?
Yep.
And then like figure out a business name that kind of like makes you feel good to use them all because you're going to use them all anyway, no matter what you're doing. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, thank you for explaining that a little bit for a little bit deeper because I think it's really,
Absolutely.
really important.
Good. Absolutely. Happy to help.
Awesome. But next, I want to ask you, can you explain the connection between Reiki healing and unlocking one's intuitive gifts, particularly in building a bridge to the spirit world?
Hmm. So, so Reiki is not one of my most used modalities. I do use it, but I'm definitely more into sound. But I do everything incredibly intuitively. I know a lot of people like to see the science or how things work. I'm just like, if I feel it, I understand and I know that it works. So to me, Reiki is that download from source, right? You literally get the, what is it called? Transmission. It's called something. Do you remember the word? It's not
Download?
download or transmission. Huh?
I was going to say download, but you said it's not
It's
that.
kind of like yeah, it's kind of like download. There's a word for it. I'm escaping it right now, but you're literally receiving that from source, and then it is a part of you. To me, as long as you trust that and you believe it, then it is done and it has already happened, and it will strengthen your intuition just by the belief in the fact that you've connected to. Basically, I think of it like a little USB
Mhm.
straight to source, right into the crown of your head, right? So that's kind of how I see it.
I love that. Okay. And I love
Yeah,
that you kind of put it that way. It's more so like a download. Almost, it almost goes a little bit like channeling in a smidge.
very much so. Yeah. Well,
But
yeah, and I'm not a psychic like you are. I mean, I have psychic abilities, but I'm not like a self-proclaimed psychic. So it's probably not exactly like channeling, but that is sort of the channel is open because you've accepted it, right?
yeah, yeah. And I
Hmm.
feel like it's very spot on to that. But yeah, thank you for explaining it just a little bit deeper again.
Of course.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what role does sound healing play in facilitating deeper connections to the soul and accessing communications with the loved ones beyond the veil?
Okay, so sound frequency, we are all made of frequency, right? We are all just various levels of frequency, vibration. And so sound has the ability to do just about anything. And I host sound baths all the time. I've done over 130 of them in the past couple of years.
Ooh.
And I know, and people have visions, people move, they shake, somebody came in with a sinus infection and it was like gone by the end of it. Like it moved, yeah, it moves shit. So basically, I think what happens, sorry, I'm cussed. I think what happens is that we get caught in these patterns and, we're in this matrix, we're in this box, and we hold on to traumas that have happened and then put that in our hips and we hold on to things that make us upset and we put them in our shoulders and we like put all this stuff in our body and then it just stays there. And so, because we're frequency and because we're made of so much water, the frequency of the bowls, the gongs, the singing that I do, all of it will physically move that out of your body. And
Mm,
so that I think if you were inclined to be into mediumship or, trying to connect beyond the veil, that would be a really good first line of defense to get your stuff out of your way so that you could actually see the other side, right?
yeah, definitely, definitely. And the way that you're saying it is almost like, well, to me, it sounds almost like a transcendent. I was gonna say transitional, but I don't know what like a transcendent experience to not only like connect with spirits beyond the veil, not only connect
Hmm.
with yourself, but also release stored up trauma within your organs
Yes.
and within your spiritual epicenters. I call them nexus, but I think epicenters might be more
Okay.
universal.
Yeah, either one. But then something else that I do too is I get people to activate their voice in my
Mm,
sound baths and stuff. And so I do singing, but then I get them to chant with me and do chanting and bees breath and oming and stuff. And people, that transformation, because most of us are really blocked right here because we're too afraid to say the things that we want to say. That's
mm.
actually a really powerful practice to start to open yourself up and open the throat chakra and authenticity.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot too. A lot of people, a lot of my clients, a lot of people that I even just kind of work with on one-off sessions, they always, well, can't say always, the majority of them have a really big throat block.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
It's because they're trying to fit into the whole, and they don't mean to. We've just been conditioned
yeah.
to say what we are supposed to say rather than what we actually want to say.
Yeah, I noticed that it's definitely like a societal thing where a lot of people are afraid to operate in their power. A lot of people are afraid to, like you
Yep.
said, say what they need, and what they want. But yeah,
Yep.
I think it's more so of a really big societal conditioning. Like we're not really supposed to be in our power in this society. When
Yes.
we
That.
are, it's like, what the hell is going on?
Yep. Exactly.
But I want to ask you next, what are your favorite tools to use when it comes to your sound healing? Or do you have a favorite, I'll say?
I do. I have favorites, and then I have a lot of instruments. I have so many different things, and my partner helps me with them. But the bowls, the crystal bowls that I have, each align with each chakra, and they're really powerful and they move a lot. And then my that's probably my second favorite. My first favorite is my harmonium, which is like a piano accordion type instrument that we use for kirtan chanting and yoga. And I started to sing English songs on it, so I learn like the Beatles and Adele, and I do all these different songs with it. And then I get people to sing with me. And because I was in musical theater and singing for a really, really long time. And so I found a way to marry that with what I do now. And it's been a really cool journey. And I had somebody come in once and we all did Let It Be by the Beatles. And at the end of it, she was like, I didn't realize how long it's been since I've lost my voice and my voice was stolen from me, is what she said. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it just to have that safe place to activate that. We used to sing in circles for thousands of years, and now we do it like in church, and that's it. You know what I mean? And so I love creating a space for that.
I love
So
that
that'd be
too.
my favorite.
Oops, sorry. Okay. Thank you for
I'm
sharing
sorry, go
that.
ahead.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I love that. I love that you offer community for those of us who feel lost. I think healing is a great place to build that community. And I love that you offer that community because I think again, we live in a society where like it's forced on us to disconnect, to be disconnected,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to see community as dangerous, as violent, or whatever.
Yep.
So I think it's really great as to be a healer and to be able to bring people together.
Yep.
Um, but you mentioned kirtan.
Mm-hmm.
Would you explain what that is more deeply, please?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So kirtan is a part of a devotional yoga practice called bhakti, and bhakti is like heart devotion to spirit. And so kirtan doesn't have any dogma. Bhakti doesn't have any dogma. So it's just whatever you believe God, the universe, spirit to be, that's what it is. And when you're chanting, you can envision that yourself. However, we do the chants in Sanskrit, which is the language we use for yoga, and it's call and response. And so, like, I would chant something, you would chant it back to me. We would just go back and forth with like a simple chant until we kind of elevate and do it all together. And then you just feel like the heart opening and the space of everyone singing. And it's really beautiful.
Okay, I love that. I was going to ask you, like, what language do you chant in? Because you said you don't really do it in English. Um,
Yeah.
but I love that you do it in Sanskrit. I didn't even,
Mhm.
it's going to sound probably really stupid, but
I highly doubt it will.
I've never heard Sanskrit like spoken. I've never heard it spoken. I've never heard like what it sounds like at all. So I bet
Oh,
one of those things that's incredibly just, again, transformational.
it's a beautiful language. Yeah. So if you've never heard it like in a song or anything or at a yoga
No.
class or no. Okay. Okay.
Unless it's
Yeah.
like Shavasana and stuff like that. Is that?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay, never
Shavasana would
mind.
be one. Yeah. See, so if you've ever been in a yoga class and they say like Virabhadrasana 2, that's Sanskrit for warrior 2. And so they
Oh,
kind
okay.
of when I teach, I kind of throw them in there a little bit, and then
Mhm.
it's like half English and half Sanskrit. So you probably heard a little bit of it.
Yeah, okay. I lied. Sorry. Yeah, I heard some.
Liar.
Okay, so I want to ask you next, what advice would you give someone who feels disconnected from their intuitive gifts, but is seeking to reconnect with their inner wisdom and loved ones?
I guess it all depends on where they're starting, right? So all of our disconnections come from various different things. My favorite place to start always is inner child work because I really think that's where the beginning is for all of our where we came into this world bright and shiny and full of intuition and psychic gifts and we knew exactly what was going on and then over time the people that were already here told us, this is how you do this, this is how you do this, don't do that, don't go do that. And so over time we just kind of like beat it down. And so I always say start with inner child work. And one of my favorite things to do is just envision myself at whatever age, like small or whatever. Like sometimes she's 5, sometimes she's 13. And I just invite her to sit with me and I visualize that. And I'm not very good at visualizing. I'm much more clairaudient than I am clairvoyant or clairvoyant. No, clair. What's the one where you
Cognitive?
see things?
Is it claircognizant?
Claircog. Maybe. Which one? Where do you see? What's psychic seeing? I always forget.
Psychic seeing, I think, is clairvoyant. And then,
Clairvoyant. Okay, so
yeah. And the next will
yeah,
be
so I don't.
claircognizant.
That's right. Okay, so I don't see very well. So because I can't visualize very well, I hear things, but I will take a picture of myself
Mm.
as a little kid, and that will help me a little bit with the visual. And
Mhm.
then I just sit there and I just ask her, like, what do you need? What do you like to do? What makes you happy? What are you feeling right now? And we are so disconnected from that. You'd be surprised how quickly doing that work will start to connect you back to here.
Mhm. You're
Yeah.
right. I think a lot of the reason why a lot of people are stuck, especially when you look at patterns, like specific patterns that repeat over and over in your life, a lot
Yep.
of the times, or what I've noticed when I'm doing my own like healing work with people and clients and myself, is the reason why we're stuck is because the inner child has the reins over that part of your life.
Yep. Exactly.
Like if you have an issue with money, if you have an issue with love, if you have an issue with some sort of trauma, it's usually because your body that you are in presently right now is stuck
Hmm.
at the age where it was traumatized as a child
Yes.
or younger self. Um,
Exactly.
I've come to see that in literally every single session I've ever worked in is if someone has a major trauma, it's usually because the inner child is stuck there
Yep.
in your adult
Yeah,
body.
because I read You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. I don't know if you've ever read that book before. No, but she talks about that basically like when you're, let's say you're 12 and everything's chaotic around you, you're a child and you just come up with the best coping mechanism you can at the time. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you're 12, you do the best you can just to survive, and then you basically hold on to that until you're 40. And that little girl is still driving the bus and she's like, "This is what we're doing." And you have to tell her like, "We don't have to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're safe. You don't have to do that."
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to address your inner child, and I love that you do that. And do you do it often, like with your sound healing, if that's a legitimate
I
question to ask?
No, that's very legitimate, and I haven't yet. I
Okay.
will do that kind of stuff if I do like one-on-one work, but when I do a lot of big events, and so there's not as much time for me to get into the deep work. But I also host retreats, and I like to do that kind of stuff when I do retreats, like shadow work, child work, that sort of thing.
Okay. The
Yeah.
reason why I ask because I wonder, I know you can use sound healing for anything, so I'm wondering, like, when you're doing sound work, can you like manifest your inner child, like when you're in meditation or whatever, and then use that or channel the sound healing, the sound through to the inner child to kind of give them like a deeper release?
I have never had anybody say that before. That is a brilliant idea.
Ooh,
Yeah, you just came up with something that's a beautiful idea. So anybody who's listening who wants to do inner child work, you could easily get a sound healing on YouTube and just, envision them with you and just see that kind of healing them. But yeah, that's something that I could do like an inner child sound bath and bring everybody in for specific. That's really smart.
I love that. I thought about that idea because it sounds like when you think about sound and when you talk about how not only penetrative it is, but how it can work through anything, it can heal anything. That was my
Hmm.
first thought. Is like because a lot of people's inner children are blocked or stuck or whatever. I wonder how transformative it would be to focus the sound specifically at their inner child. Um, yeah,
It's brilliant. It's so smart.
I love it, and thank you. Um,
Yeah, you're welcome.
I want to ask you, how does your work as a spiritual coach empower individuals not only to discover their hidden psychic abilities, but also create legacy that honors their spiritual mission?
I am all about spiritual mission. That's like my one of my biggest things in my umbrella is that I really believe that we all came here with a mission and we just kind of lose sight of it along the way. And so any work that I do with any of my clients, it's just peeling back the layers of all that crap that's in the way. And we're just like little onions and we've got all this stuff on us that you just have to kind of peel back one at a time and don't be so hard on yourself and think that you need to get from here to here in X amount of time. It's a journey. But like I said, there's a new paradigm coming too. And so we're all going through a lot of it's messy because we're used to things being a certain way. And so some people they're not ready for the new paradigm. So they're like fighting back against it. Some of us are like really ready and everybody else isn't coming. And we're like, come on, and there's all kinds of things going on there. But I think if you again, coming back to that inner child work, your inner child knows exactly what your mission is because they came in knowing. And so if you kind of pay attention to that, and then you do that work to get connected to what your heart's really telling you, regardless of whether or not it makes sense, regardless of whether or not anyone else is doing it, regardless if anyone is, a lot of people are doing it, it doesn't matter because you came here specifically for the people that need your help. And so that's the kind of work that I do with people is just kind of getting them comfortable standing in their power because I've gone through a huge transition over the years standing in my own power and it's hard. It's a hard thing to do to tell people like this is what I do and get over it, you know?
Yeah,
Like, I'm sorry if it doesn't make sense to you, then you're not my person, and that's okay. It's okay for not everyone to like you.
exactly. And I think we're moving
Hmm.
into like you said, like an era of where we're not only shifting, but I think healers are becoming more and more important to not only help
Yeah.
people who feel stuck shift, but help the planet. Um,
Yes.
but I want to ask you, I don't know why I just lost the question. Oh, it's back. Okay. How important is trust when it comes to not only connecting with your internal world, but with your inner children?
Oh my God. Trust is everything, and we don't trust ourselves. That's part of the problem is that so and without getting too out in left or right field, I do think that our minds have been pretty hacked in this whole matrix structure. There's a lot of things that are in place that keep us distracted, that keep us, marketing and commercials and TV, and they're just constantly like beating us with these messages. And now we've got the 1 second news cycle. And so it's just like all the time. And so how do you know what's yours and what's not? And so I don't think people trust themselves. And then if they are, so one of the things that I do in addition to my own business is I'm the COO for my friend's business, and she's a mentor for psychic business owners. And so she's got a lot of psychics in her space, and they're all terrified to come out of the psychic closet. And they're all like, okay, well, I've been getting these messages for 20 years, but I'm afraid to tell anybody because, first of all, I sound crazy. Second of all, I don't know if it's real. So, you know what I mean? So, there's all these things I think in society that are happening that make us not trust ourselves. And I think that's by design, which again, the new paradigm, we're kind of starting to get rid of that, right? We're starting to go, you know what? I don't believe you anymore. This is not true. And we're going to show you what is the truth. But in order to find that, you have to trust yourself. And so I'll tell people silly things like intuitively pick the first thing you see on the menu and just trust that and start there. Like start with little stuff that's not big. Like I went to this new restaurant. I don't know. I'm just going to pick that and go with it. And just like start to build little practices that make you start to trust yourself before you go to the big things that are scary.
I absolutely love that. I think that makes a lot of sense to people who are having a hard time or who get overwhelmed very easily when it comes to big things. And I think trust is a big thing.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
so yeah, thank you for explaining that because I think it'll be really, really helpful. And I think this interview so far has been like a really great how to of not only how to connect with yourself, but how to do so in a way that's like easy,
Hmm.
and doesn't feel scary. So thank you for that.
Yes. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you next. How do you balance spiritual growth with practical business strategies? And how does that balance help people reconnect to their spiritual gifts and ancestors?
Hmm. So let's see. Let's start with the balancing spiritual growth with the practical business practices. It's really hard because I kind of feel like I'm on the front lines of bringing in something new.
Mhm.
So I use a lot of older marketing techniques that I've learned, like funnels and webinars. And I try to stay away from bro marketing or FOMO marketing because they're like, oh, last call to blah, 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 or make people feel I don't like that kind of feeling. And for most spiritual business owners, that feels yucky to most of us. And so but I'm still using some of those structures because they work. And so I'm trying to bring together those structures with that sort of mission minded, soul aligned trust. Because that's the other thing, too. We have to trust that the people are going to find us, the people that need us, and we're like, how are they going to find us if we're not doing all the things that all these marketing gurus are telling us to do?
Yeah.
And so what I try to do is create, it's different for everyone that I work with, but like what will you feel good doing? Do you hate Instagram? Then don't commit yourself to be on Instagram every day because it's not going to work for you. Maybe you focus more on blogging and SEO. Do you love to be on social media? Then that's where you want to hang out, and then I'll teach you some strategies for that. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like blending together because you don't want it to feel yucky
Yeah.
but you want it to work. So it's blending together the things that we know work and then the things that feel good in your heart. Because for me, I tell people about my stuff all the time. I am a shameless self promoter and I don't feel yucky about it because I really believe in what I do. So I will be constantly promoting myself, but I don't feel like a car salesman. I feel like I'm on a mission and I want people to know what this is. And so if I'm for you, I need you to know about it, right? So I think doing that work to peel back the layers and get in touch with the holy shit, this is amazing and I want to do this so bad and this is what I'm here for, you
Mhm.
stop caring what other people think and you start being like, I'm going to shout this from the rooftops because I want the people to find me. So that's part one. I forgot the second half of your question. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I asked two questions in one, thinking that it would be easy, but
It's
but yeah, no,
not.
I think it's difficult to ask like a humongous like 2 to 3 part question in one, thinking that people are supposed to hang on to it. So I apologize about that.
But no, it's okay. It's fine.
But yeah, the next part of it was how does that balance help people reconnect to their spiritual gifts and ancestors?
Well, because I think again, so it's that same thing we're talking about with like the boxes and the structure and the matrix and the whatever. When you start to let go of some of that, I need to do this, I should do this, I have to do this because so and so is doing it. You start to let go of that and you start to go, okay, I'm starting to feel what would feel good for me. And that's already a connection to your intuition. That's already you going, I'm going to go ahead and buck against that and do what I think might feel better. And it may not work right away. That's the hard part. But I once paid $8,000 for a coaching program from a woman that was, like ex corporate America, blah, blah, blah. And she wanted me to sell in DMs and do all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? After 3 months, I was like, can you let me out? I hate it here. Like, it just doesn't feel good. And that's okay. It's probably working for people. But if you're a spiritual entrepreneur, chances are you're already a little bit more in tune, even
Hmm.
if you don't always know it. And so that kind of stuff isn't going to feel good for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So so if you're even drawn to anything like that I'm saying, you're already more connected to your intuition than you think you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause that sounds kind of scary, like to sail in the deep. That sounds really, really scary, especially as a
Yeah.
spiritual person, not just because like a rejection or whatever, but as a spiritual person with a spiritual practice, if you're on social
Hmm.
media at all, it's scary because there are a lot of people who take your identity as a spiritual practitioner and reaches out to people
Yep.
and does bad. So I think that there's a little bit of skepticism because people are going to think that you're one of those people.
Yeah, I
Um,
forgot about that. Yeah, I haven't seen those in a while, but yeah, there's people like tarot readers and psychics and
yes.
stuff.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I've noticed it on my social media. The bigger I get, like the more weird profiles are made with my content.
Uh-huh.
And
Mm-hmm.
friends too that are coming up too are like they're growing fast and um people are making other profiles of their profile using their entire content, their pictures, all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and going in people's DMs and those people are coming back to me and my friends and like saying that we stole from them. We're like, we would never message you. We would never ever.
Oh my God.
So it's this weird thing. Like
Yeah.
I understand, like it can be lucrative to some, but it's also this weird thing. Like it also kind of makes us look a little bit sketchy because people are doing it to
Mm-hmm.
scam.
Yep. Absolutely. And it probably doesn't feel good to like cold DM anyone anyway.
No.
So yeah, like I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Exactly. I'd rather them like see me, feel the energy, and think, "Holy damn, I want to work with him or her."
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Okay, so now I want to ask you, what are the key signs that someone is ready to reconnect with their loved ones beyond the veil?
And this is something I don't have a lot of knowledge in, honestly. Like I've experienced a little bit of mediumship myself. My mom had passed a long time ago, so I got to kind of. And it was funny. I was hosting a retreat last year, and we were doing content creation for business owners. And so we were doing like fake scenarios where people were seated, and then somebody was standing up doing like a gallery reading, and we got footage of it so they could use it for their website, that kind of thing. And one of the women was a medium, and she started channeling, and I was like, and she was saying all this stuff, and I was like, is this real? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's my mom. Like, I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Because she was saying all these things. And so I don't know what the signs were that I was ready. I guess, again, it depends on where you're coming from, who it is you want to talk to. You probably know a lot more about this than I do. So I'm not sure. But I do know that for me, I. I've let go of a lot of things. There was a lot of anger and stuff around my mom because she was a drug addict, and so I'd let go of a lot of that. And as I started to let it go, she was able to show up more. So that's just my
Hmm.
personal experience. But yeah, so now we have a good relationship. I talk to her sometimes and I'm just like, we're good now. So I don't know, maybe it was just the healing. Like when you're on your journey, you just start to, again, peel back those layers, get out of your own way. and then you can see the truth versus anything that you think is happening.
Yeah, I love that you built a relationship after she was gone. Um,
Hmm.
and it sucks that you had to go through that, but it's great that you survived it.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
and that you could go on to be an amazing practitioner today. But yeah, thank you for sharing that story and thank you for just shedding light on how to be a great healing practitioner.
Thank
I know
you.
we didn't really get too deep into things, but I think what you did share, I think, was is really helpful to those of us who are starting out, and
Hmm.
those of us who are on our path already and who want to connect more deeply.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much.
You're
Okay,
so welcome.
now I want to ask you if people would like to connect with you, if people would like to find you or work with you, how can they do so?
Ooh, okay. And it's funny, let's talk about the umbrella and the name. So I chose the name intuitivegen.com just because
Mhm.
it kind of fully encompasses all the different things that I do. And so JENINTUITIVE, that was hard to spell, .com. And so that's my website. And then you can find me on Instagram. I'm not super active as of yet, but I'm going to start to because I'm opening up a new program in November called Sacred Leadership Academy. So it's going to be basically a 12-month group program where we go through all of this. So there's 4 pillars. So there's heal, embody, lead, and impact. And so we go through 3 months of each thing where we heal all this stuff and then we start to really feel embodiment and authenticity. And then we start to find our leadership. And it's a whole thing that I'm launching. So that's on my website as well. And I've got retreats on there. I do sound healing certifications. I do all kinds of stuff. So my website's probably the place to go, but you can also find me on Instagram.
I love that. Awesome. And I want to ask you next, do you have a free gift or offer to share with the audience today?
I do. So I have a workbook and it's on my website, and I think I also sent you the link. So I'm sure you know how to do, obviously know how to share that.
Yeah.
So it's a Find Your Soul Clients workbook, and so it's a workbook that just kind of goes through a lot of the stuff that I talked about here today. And I maybe I should start to call it like the anti-niche workbook or something because it really it's getting more in touch with your words and your language and your mission and the things that are important to you, so you can take all of that and use it in your website copy, use it on your Instagram. Like you start to like find what words you're are coming out of your soul and start
Mhm.
speaking those rather than what you think you should say,
Mhm.
because then you're going to attract clients that you don't want. But if you start saying the things like I cuss and I say fuck and I'm like, you know what, if people don't like that, then they're probably not my client and that's okay. So I try to authentically talk. And so this workbook is just a little freebie to help you kind of go through some of the work you can do to
Mhm.
get more in touch with your authentic self and start to talk in a way that you can find your soul aligned clients.
I love that. Thank you for offering
Yeah, of course.
or having an
Absolutely.
offer, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, so next I want to ask you, can you share an experience that was incredibly memorable to you in your practice? Like something that was either very scary or very, I guess, life-changing, I'll say.
Gosh. There's so many different things. So, like, if it's at a sound bath, I see all kinds of amazing, like, mini transformations. They come in for an hour, and I see people shaking, or they come up to me and they cry afterward, and they're just like, "Oh my God, thank you. That like changed my life." Like, there's a lot of those little things. But
Mhm.
then in like spiritual business coaching, I just see the most amazing transformations when you start to ask people about themselves in a way that's not just about their business. I
Yeah.
had a woman come to me and she wanted to do something totally different at the beginning. And by the end of it, she was like, oh my God, like I'm a different person. Like I didn't even know I had this. And so
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that quite answers the question, but it really just, I just see this all the time with people. It's like a bunch of light bulbs constantly. It's just like little awakenings all the time.
Mhm. No, I think it definitely answers the question. I think that's powerful because I think when you're starting a business and when you're seeking out a coach to help you with that business, that's exactly
Hmm.
what you're looking for. It's not only to go in there, you know, well, you're not looking to like change careers or change paths or whatever, but you're looking to find out who you really are so that you can operate
Hmm.
as your best spiritual practitioner.
Yes.
So I think that's absolutely transformation. I think that's absolutely wonderful that you even have that story to tell because it shows them that you're able to help them through whatever is keeping them blocked,
Hmm.
so that they can be
Exactly.
done.
Yep. Exactly.
But yeah, thank you so much. This interview has been absolutely wonderful. I apologize if it's been like super fast, but
Oh, it's fine. You have nothing to apologize for. You're doing great. I love it.
But yeah, I think this has been really great, really informational. And it was really, really wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.